A couple of weeks ago, I was in my favorite local independent bookstore. And as I was browsing through some of the books, looking at the new releases and all that, I had a thought that I wouldn't say it was a novel idea necessarily, but something that I don't know that has ever occurred to me, which is as I'm nearing the end of my life, if I look back on the whole of my life, and particularly in this case, look back on the books I've read, will I be more grateful for the fiction books I've read or the nonfiction books I've read? And I think what I landed on that day would be I was going to be more grateful for the fiction books I've read. Because even at this stage of my life, as I look back on the reading I've done, and I try to read about 50 books a year at least, as I look back on the reading I've done, I think I favor more or savor more the fiction that I've read. Now, there have been, of course, some nonfiction books that have been really meaningful to me. I've got several of them on the shelf behind me because they've helped me think through things and define my life in ways that have been meaningful for me. So I don't want to say that nonfiction isn't of value, but the case I do want to make is fiction is of more value than a lot of people ascribe to it. Now, I don't know why you chose to click through this particular video today. I'm going to work on the assumption that you're here because maybe you read a little bit of fiction and you want to read more, or maybe you've been considering reading fiction and you want a little motivation for why. If you already read fiction, I'm glad you're here. I hope you'll find this beneficial too. But let me give you 7 reasons why I think fiction is worth your time. Now, the first one is this: enjoyment. Fiction can bring you joy. And if you already read fiction and you read a lot of fiction, you're probably already at this place. And let me say this for anybody who's watching. If you read fiction purely for the joy of it, that is reason enough. These other reasons that follow are good reasons to read fiction, but reading purely for the enjoyment and the joy of it is reason enough. You don't have to get anything else out of this video, though. I hope you'll keep on watching. Practically, though, let's get into some of the other reasons. Another reason to read fiction, reason number 2. Reading fiction cultivates and develops your own emotional range and your own empathy for the emotions of others. As we read and we engage with characters in a book and we read about what they're going through, and sometimes we see inside their mind and sometimes not. But as we recognize the emotions that they are experiencing in the stories that we're reading, it helps us better recognize our own emotions as we go through our own life, and it helps us better recognize the emotions of others so that we can have more empathy for them. In the book Stolen Focus, Johann Hari writes about a study about this, and there's actually been a number of studies about this that I've seen cited in different places, but this is the particular one I pulled, and he writes this: the more novels you read, the better you were at reading other people's emotions. It was a huge effect. So people who read a lot of fiction are better at engaging with the emotions of others. Another reason I'd encourage you, reason number 3 to read fiction, is to build your own attention and understanding. Now, I've previously done a video just about how to get your attention back, and one of the things I mentioned in there was long form reading, and I think it's particularly true even here as we're talking about fiction. In that video, I used a quote from Cal Newport, an article where he quotes neuroscientist Marianne Wolf, writing about what she calls deep reading processes, and as he paraphrases, that rewire and retrain neuronal regions in ways that increase the complexity and nuance of what we're able to understand. Engaging in the longer format of a book, where you stay with a thought longer, where you stay with a thread longer, helps you to build your attention and helps you to build your understanding of trains of thought as they develop over time. Nothing does that better than books. I enjoy watching TV. I watch a fair amount of TV shows. If you watch a TV show, pay attention to how quickly the scenes change. Even dialogue might often only last 30, 45 seconds, and then it quickly moves on. Whereas in a book, you linger in a scene, you linger in a dialogue, and you build your attention as you follow. And so there's a benefit to reading fiction to build your cognitive load, so to speak, your capacity to be attentive to what is happening around you and within you, and to better understand the dynamics of what's going on there. Another one, a wonderful reason to read fiction, is just to appreciate the creativity and the beauty of it. Just like you might go to the theater to see a play or a musical, just like you might go to a museum to appreciate art. You might go to a concert to hear your favorite artist and appreciate the creativity and the beauty of that. Reading fiction, though singular in experience compared to all of those, is another example of appreciating the beauty of a story that is well told, words that are well crafted. So reading a book can help you be reminded that there is beauty in the world. There is beauty in life. Even the darkest of fiction, you can hang on to the beauty of a character maintaining a glimmer of hope in the darkest of stories. Another one is this. This is number, what are we on? Number 5. For me, and I suppose for others, reading fiction stirs my curiosity quite a bit, actually. And one of the things that I often find is when I'm reading a book, particularly like not a fantasy or a science fiction book, but this happens sometimes with those two in different ways. But when I'm reading a book, I often have an urge to understand where this book is taking place. So it's not uncommon for me to look up the city where it takes place in a Wikipedia article, or actually to open, to grab my iPad from next to me and look at a map of where this particular story is taking place. Because I'm curious. I want to know more. Or maybe there's just a topic that's covered in the book that I want to know more about. I would recommend you not do what I do, which I just confessed to you. I would recommend you not just grab an iPad or whatever and escape from the book into something else, but keep a note card handy in the book or alongside you and write down, I want to research more about, Alaska or whatever it is you're reading about in that book, so that you can understand more and enjoy more the book as you're learning what's going on surrounding the book. It does, for me, and I hope for you, stir more curiosity. Another way that reading fiction is helpful, I find, is it offers a new sense of perspective for your life. It's almost like reading is like a little mini vacation where you step away from the pressure, you step away from the to-do list, you step away from all the things that are coming at you constantly, just into another world. And then maybe you're reading about a character or a plot line that parallels your life, but you see then what's happening in your life from a little bit different perspective because you're away from it, and you can observe it almost a little bit as a third party and maybe approach it differently, or maybe see it differently as you come back to it. And the other side of that is it also stirs your imagination when you're reading a story and you wonder, how would I possibly face something like this? Or this choice that this character made to completely uproot their life and go do this or that might stir in you this sense of possibility, this sense of imagination for how you want to stretch your life out beyond the rhythms perhaps, or the constraints that you have in your life that maybe you place there yourself. And you see what happens to this person in their life because they took hard steps. And it gives you imagination for yours as well. And then finally, reason number 7, I would say, to read fiction is simply rest. We all need, I'm convinced, we all need more rest than we get. Several years ago, my family and I were coming out of a difficult season and involved moving and involved some health issues and that kind of thing. And so near the end of that season, I was able to take a sabbatical. And it was a 12-week sabbatical. And I remember 6 weeks into that, one afternoon, this is such a clear memory. It probably happened almost 10 years ago at this point, but it's such a clear memory. I was laying on the couch one afternoon, and I wasn't alone. I could hear my kids playing in the other room. I could hear the dishwasher running. But I was just laying there reading a fiction book, and the thought occurred to me, there is nothing else I need to be doing right now. And it felt so good. It took me 6 weeks of sabbatical to get there, and I'm not sure I would have gotten there had it not been for reading fiction in that particular moment. But it was a beautiful realization. And that has been a constant theme that I've been revisiting even in the last few years of my life, which is my ability or my capacity to sit down and read fiction at any given time of the day and stay connected to it directly reflects how much I'm able to rest in a given season of life. And it's almost a benchmark for me to determine, am I getting enough rest? Do I need to let some things go if I can't stay connected and if I cannot continue to be present to the fiction that I'm reading. So my invitation to you is read fiction. Read fiction for these reasons, but read fiction just for the enjoyment of it. It is worth your time. And in some ways, I would even argue that fiction is more beneficial than nonfiction because it's almost like a subversive self-help where all of these things are working on you even if you don't realize them, and you're becoming a fuller, better person because of what you're experiencing through reading fiction. If you are wanting to get started, let me just give you 3 quick recommendations for books that I've read over the probably 3 standouts over the past 10 years. I've obviously read quite a few more, but a recent one is The Things We Never Say by Elizabeth Strout. It was a book that I think was just released this year or late last year on a lot of best of lists. Fantastic book, easy characters to relate to, pretty short. Another one is, I think at this point, kind of considered one of the all-time classics, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I read this one about 10 years ago, and I still remember much of it. It is literary fiction, like even though it's a Western, it is literary fiction that engages deeply with characters and plot in a way that makes it appealing, I would say, for anyone to follow. I don't typically read Westerns, but I really enjoyed that one. And then the last one is a little more of a thriller, maybe a guilty pleasure for me, but it is the book Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. And there's a TV show about it now. The book is better. And it's just one I really enjoyed in terms of the concepts of the story and how it was moving along was really appealing to me. My name is John Chandler, and on this channel I talk about books, I talk about mindful use of technology, and I talk about intentional living. And if you like talking about these kind of topics or books like this, I'd be glad to have you follow along. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button, and of course, if you have a fiction book you'd recommend, leave a comment below. I would love to hear it. Thanks for watching.